So, a very warm welcome to everybody who is joining us today for our Live Well Live webinar. We are going to be looking all at about menopause today, and we're very fortunately joined by my amazing colleague Rupa, who is going to introduce herself in a moment. For anyone who's not met me before, I'm Ruth. I'm the nutritionist with Boots Online Doctor, also a registered nurse and health and wellness coach. And really, we've been running these webinars now for a few years, really to support you as much as we possibly can on your weight loss journeys. We are thrilled when you come along and also thrilled when you ask questions, because really our whole sense of being here is to really make sure if you have a question when you arrive that we try and answer it before you leave. We really want to support you. So if you've brought questions along, please pop them into the Q&A box. Today we have set up a new function on the Q&A box, which is the opportunity to upvote on the questions that are there. So you should now be able to see all the questions that are in the Q&A box that have been written by yourselves or by other people. And if actually you like that question and you'd like us to answer it, then please vote on it. You can vote on your own question once, and you can vote on other people's questions as well. So we also just want to remind you that if there's any sort of very medically orientated questions about your own health journeys that aren't for general advice, we'll probably redirect you to someone who is more appropriate to talk to you, rather than talking very specifically about particular personalized health issues within a very general webinar. So that sort of really covers that. If you've got any questions, do please ask them. Do say hello in the chat box. I'm based in the most sunny Hampshire, and it's been a really lovely weekend. Sun is shining today, so I'm going to get out in my lunch break after our webinar today and get some fresh air. What about you? And welcome to Rupa. So please say hello, Rupa.
Hello, everyone. I'm based in West London, right next to Heathrow. Unfortunately, I've got planes above my head, which is why I've got my headphones on so I don't get distracted. So if you do hear any planes, just be aware it's just the airport.
How exciting.
I know. I've got an exciting life here.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah, go on.
tell us about you, Rupa, because we know you're here, but tell us why you're here, and you're so wonderful on this subject.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm privileged to be here with Ruth. Ruth is the expert with everything. So I am really honored to be here with Ruth. I am Rupa. I'm a pharmacist. I work for Boots Online Doctor, and I have a special interest in the menopause, which I absolutely love. And I love helping lots of women with their symptoms, their treatment, and just giving advice. And I also work in the NHS once a week, which is great. But yeah, love my job, love being here, and let's see what we can do for you today.
Brilliant, thank you. And we're also joined by Chantel and by Julia, who are helping sharing any links that we talk about. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here and really keeping us all on track, which is great because it's nice to have people keeping us on track in the background. So if there's anything we talk about, we will be sharing links. They are downloadable from the chat box for you. Great. So Rupa, I'm going to hand straight over to you.
Thank you, Ruth. I thought it'd be nice to see this graph and explain, even though we hear about the perimenopause and menopause a lot now, and there's all sorts of information out there. But I just wanted to summarize what the transition looks like for everybody, women, what we go through. So as you can see, this is a graph that shows levels of estrogen and progesterone. So we have pre-menopause stage, which is when we're in our 20s and 30s, and as you can see, the hormone levels are very well balanced. We're very much full of energy. We're smiling a lot in our 20s and 30s, and everything seems okay-ish. Then we hit our 40s. And I'm going to talk about the perimenopause stage in a bit more detail. And you can see the fluctuating hormones going up and down. And these cause a lot of symptoms, menopausal symptoms, which women can find a little bit strange because they're still having their cycle. You can have a very normal cycle, but you're actually experiencing a lot of the perimenopausal symptoms. Then the menopause. Now, menopause, when you reach the menopause, that means that you've had no periods for 1 year or more. And yet then you reach the postmenopausal stage after that. So you can see a complete decline of estrogen and progesterone. And again, even though periods stop, you've got a lot of symptoms. There's over 30 symptoms. Some women might say there's over 100. But there is specific symptoms where you can diagnose a woman with reaching the menopause based on those symptoms. Now, the perimenopause, just going back to this stage here, I call it the puberty of the menopause. It's transitioning into the menopausal stage, and it's quite a difficult stage for a lot of women because your hormones haven't depleted completely, but you've got all these symptoms, and it depends on those fluctuating hormones. Um, like I said, your cycle could be very much normal, but it's normally starts changing and becoming more sporadic with long gaps. But women do report common symptoms like hot flushes, night sweats, joint aches and pains. Um, Brain fog is very, very common. Memory problems, just remembering words, remembering colleague names, just anything. Why you came into a certain room, what did I come to do? These are very common things as well. But what happens here is that you have weight changes. Now, it's known that you can gain weight during this time um, quite significantly. So they say it's about 1.5 kilograms a year during the perimenopause, sorry. So the perimenopause can last up to 10 years. So by the time you reach the menopause, you could have uh, gained at least 10 kilograms, which is quite shocking. But we are going to go into how we can help you during that phase with that and explain a bit more about what that means. Now, the diagnosis of perimenopause and menopause is a clinical diagnosis, not a biochemical one. So, blood tests don't always determine whether you have reached those stages. Now, in practice, by guidelines, NICE guidelines say that after the age of 45, you do not need a blood test because if you are displaying a lot of the symptoms, you can be diagnosed. Under the age of 45, still you're required to have two separate blood tests. So they're testing for the follicular stimulating hormone, which are done about 4 to 6 weeks apart. Even those results may not determine the diagnosis properly because, again, the hormones are fluctuating. You're not going to get an accurate result. So, again, it goes by symptoms alone. I am going to post a link to a really useful questionnaire that you can take to your doctor or any clinician that you're consulting for your symptoms. And it's a really helpful tool to look at the symptoms and actually talk through with your clinician as well. And if you do decide to go on treatment, you can monitor your symptoms on that questionnaire and seeing what's improving and what's not, which helps both you and the clinician to look at your treatment and your options. Um, there are other reasons why you would reach the menopause instantly. That would be through surgery, any specific surgery that you've had, especially if you've had your womb removed, your hysterectomy, if you've had any chemotherapy due to any cancers, and even certain medical conditions can actually get you into an instant menopause. And I think that's pretty much summed up what hopefully this is all about.
I think that's a very amazing discussion. So thank you,
Thank you.
Rupa. It's
Thank you.
really interesting and it really does make you realize what's going on. We
Mm,
have got a poll that we're sharing with you, and this is really for our interest and really just for us to understand what's going on for people who are here. The polls are completely anonymous, so please do take a couple of moments to have a look at that. There's no right or wrong answers. It just helps us know where you're at, and feel free to take part if you would like to. You obviously there's no pressure. We can see that people are answering. We don't have a clue who's saying what.
mm.
So it's completely anonymous to us as well. So just so you're aware of that, I think it helps to know that no one's really got a clue who's saying what. Sometimes we can feel awkward, can't we, if we're
Yep,
feeling stressed on that
abs-
day. So let's have a look. So yeah, I think you've really explained this well. We know that in menopause we go through a variety of significant hormone shifts and changes, and that puberty of menopause, I think many women will recognise
mm,
as a very, very challenging time, isn't it?
yep,
But what happens in terms of hunger and weight? You've already said that we can gain weight. It's sort of known in the research that weight gain is part and parcel of menopause unless we are very on it and aware, and we can gain weight without even doing anything differently. So that's incredibly difficult. But we know that our appetite can change quite significantly during menopause as well. And one of the things that happens is as our estrogen begins to reduce, you may notice that you're feeling hungrier, your appetite will probably likely be changing, or that you find that you're not so full after meals. So you maybe are eating more or less what you used to eat before. We are all creatures of habits. That's generally the case for most of us. But you just notice that perhaps things are changing, your biology is changing, you're gaining weight, you're feeling uncomfortable around food, you're not feeling satisfied. So we know that this is really common for many, many people. So we want to sort of explain why this is and really to put your mind a little bit at rest. It doesn't change the reality of what you're seeing on the scales or how you're feeling. But I think if you understand that you're not at fault, it really helps. So what we can see is that the hormones that regulate hunger and fullness really can shift during this whole menopausal, perimenopausal phase. So your body may be nudging you sort of quietly to eat more. Even if your habits haven't changed, you may be getting some messages or some sort of like extra hunger. You may also notice, and you maybe aren't even aware of this, and I think this is something that's really fascinating, that in the background, quietly, we can have a loss of muscle mass. And we know that one of the things that keeps our metabolism really active is how healthy a muscle mass that we have or how strong our muscles are. So if we're losing some of our muscle mass because of that change in estrogen and testosterone and progesterone, then we are also in a slightly less metabolically positive state. As our muscle reduces, our body will burn less calories. So when we're at rest, we will be less metabolically active. We also tend to find that our fat storage and where we lay down fat changes. So we may find that we're more prone to storing fat around our middle, and we can feel less happy when we're in our clothes. They can feel tighter for no reason. Perhaps on the scales, the number is the same, but the distribution of our body fat has changed. So our clothes can suddenly feel less comfortable, which is obviously really unpleasant, especially if you have certain outfits that you only put on maybe a couple of times a year for special occasions. You get them out of the wardrobe expecting it all to be perfect, and goodness me, is a disaster. And there are also changes going on in how our body responds to insulin. So this is a really big, complex story. Over time, that can affect our energy levels, our cravings, and how we store fat. So we really need to be on it, be aware of it, and just really have that knowledge in our back pocket so that we can stop beating ourselves up, stop feeling like we're doing something wrong, understand our biochemistry, understand what's going on physiologically, and make the changes that we can make to respond in a really positive way. So, what we know is that small, consistent changes can really help us to see through these differences and can make a real difference. And we really need to be focusing on supporting our metabolism, our muscle mass, and also thinking about how we fulfill maybe a slightly more voracious appetite. So, we're going to talk about that as well. Rupert, anything you want to add there?
I think you summed it up very well. I like the way that you explained about outfits have been a problem sometimes because I had that. I've had that recently where I've just put on my normal jeans and I think, why are these fitting tighter than last week? And it creates such a bad mood. I just got in a bad mood because I thought, wait a minute, what am I doing? I haven't done anything. It's just, it's a really, really tricky stage. And I hope, I'm sure everyone can relate to something similar.
Definitely. So quickly looking at the polls, I can see, gosh, let's see, sort of like across the board, say people are really struggling to know what's working for them, finding it a little bit hard. A few people are finding it hard to stay consistent. Weight's increasing despite no major changes. Oh my goodness, so it's summing it all up really. Feeling hungrier or having more cravings and lower energy levels. Okay, we're going to try and tackle some of this with
Yeah.
you.
Yep, absolutely. Ruth, you touched on body composition, which I think is something that we really need to understand, and it's an important aspect of it because we think we're just gaining weight. But what really it is the distribution. The body composition is changing, even if your weight stays the same. And this is because during the menopause, as Ruth has briefly explained, is that when there's a drop in estrogen, what happens is the distribution of the fat changes. So it's normally around your hips and your thighs, but what happens is it starts being distributed in your tummy, in your middle. And that's where you get that stubborn middle, meno belly, which is really hard to shift for a lot of women regardless of doing exercise. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're gaining weight. It's just the actual distribution and where it's stored changes. This middle bit, this stubborn middle bit, is called visceral fat, which is stored deep inside the abdomen, and it surrounds organs like the liver. And normally it makes up about 5 to 8% of your body fat. Now, in the menopause, that goes up to 15 to 20% of your body fat, which is quite a drastic increase. And what tends to happen is that this change in body composition means that your basal metabolic rate, so that's the rate at which you burn fat and calories at rest, starts to decrease. Now, as a guide, if you're apple shaped, that means that you're more likely to have high levels of visceral fat rather than pear shaped. But looking at my body these days, I don't know whether I'm a mango shaped or a pear shaped or grape shaped or God knows what fruit. So I don't know what shape you're really meant to go by is the apple shape that we would suggest. So this fat accumulation has obviously an impact on your health, and it can raise things like your blood pressure and increased risk of heart disease, which we don't want. What it also does, as Ruth has briefly mentioned, is an impact on your muscle mass. So it starts reducing muscle mass, which is a key player for metabolism, and for also having good bone health as well. So your bone density increase relies on your muscle mass as well. So the goal isn't just to lose weight, it's about improving that understanding and improving the body composition, and managing muscle and fat distribution quite evenly. Would you agree, Ruth?
So yeah, I think that is
Yeah.
the absolute key, really, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So other factors I think that we perhaps should touch on, and I can see we've got lots of questions coming in. Do keep the questions coming in, and we can upvote on those. So if there are questions that are already there, do upvote on those. If you didn't hear that at the beginning, just so you're aware, really. Don't know, Julia or Chital, if you can put anything in the chat box to help people navigate those things. So yeah, what else can we think about that is going to be quite influential on our weight at this stage in life? Is, one of the biggest things is sleep. So many women we know experience sleep disturbances during perimenopause, whether that's because of night sweats or hot flushes or simply waking more often. And we know that sleep is one of those factors that really matters in terms of weight loss. We have a whole webinar on sleep. So if sleep is evading you and you don't get the answers today, do come along or watch the replay on that. We really recommend that people need to be getting 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night. And what we know is if you're not sleeping well, that your hunger can be adversely affected by poor sleep. And some really interesting research has suggested if we sleep less than 4 or 5 hours a night, we are likely to eat an extra 300 calories the next day. And that doesn't put menopause into that whole story either. So it's really quite a big factor. We also know stress is another key factor. When stress levels are high, our body produces more cortisol, and this again can affect our cravings and our appetite, and also affect where fat is stored. So you've got that combination going on in terms of then being perimenopausal or menopausal. You've almost got that double whammy effect. And that will also affect the balance of your sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone. So, really important to be thinking, okay, if I've got ongoing long-term stress, I need to think about how I'm going to manage this differently. It might be that we can't get rid of the stress, but we need to think about what we can do to manage our lives or how we find that off switch a little bit more often. We've talked already about insulin sensitivity, so we know when estrogen reduces, insulin sensitivity will reduce as well. And that is one of the things that really manages our energy and our blood sugar management. So we often will find that we feel more tired, more hungry, and find it much harder to lose weight when we have less insulin sensitivity. So this is really a key factor. And then there's a lot of growing evidence around the whole microbiome in terms of our gut health during shifting during menopause. So all of this is quite overwhelming news. If it's news for you, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed, but we do want you to be educated and aware of all of these different pieces of the jigsaw puzzle going on. We're going to pick up and talk about what we can do differently. So we may find that with that shift in our gut microbiome that we feel more uncomfortable in our digestive health. We might feel more bloated. Can really also change our appetite signals. So for those people who are in that maintenance of weight loss, all of these factors are really important to be considering as well. So it's not just people who are losing weight, it's also the people who have successfully managed to lose weight and perhaps navigating this life phase. It's a really important thing to be thinking about. And then we wanted to quickly touch on the thyroid because for me, this is such an important factor. And this can be for some people, not for everyone, absolutely, but for some people, it can be a part of that jigsaw puzzle. And this is where it can perhaps become a little bit confusing because many symptoms of thyroid imbalance will also overlap, Rupa, won't they, with menopause symptoms? So things like fatigue, weight changes, mood changes, sleep difficulty, dry skin, all of those factors can be related to thyroid imbalances. So if you are doing everything you can in terms of managing your sex hormones and managing your balance, but you're still feeling all of these symptoms, then it may be worth considering whether your thyroid is part of your story. Um, I don't know if there is any percentage awareness out there. I haven't looked, and I think I will go and research if we know how many women who are in that perimenopausal phase, menopausal phase, who do have a thyroid imbalance as well. Rupert, do you have any?
No, I don't have any stats. No.
I go and have a look. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I could be
That'd
into
be interesting to
today,
know,
but I
actually.
think
Yeah.
it'd be nice
No,
to
that.
know. Yeah, and Rupert,
Yeah. No, absolutely. It would be good to know that.
oh,
It is interesting that the menopause just isn't about estrogen, like you said. It's a whole hormonal orchestra, as I say, that's going out of sync during this time. And you've touched on insulin sensitivity, which is really important to control your blood sugar levels and and the body composition, like I've explained before. Which can also have an impact on increased hunger and your energy. The other one that we talk about it a lot, Ruth, don't we? Is stress, or managing stress. How can we do it? But I think it's really important to know that it's essential and it's something that we must do. Cortisol is the hormone that's released when we have high stress levels. Now, in this day and age, we are always quite stressed. I don't think we are ever rested properly. There's always things on our mind, but I think it's the emotional stress that's really quite important to tackle and manage throughout your daily routine. Anything that you can do to help stress and self-care is so important. That cortisol is quite has an impact on your body and your health. What it does is when it does reach high levels, it impacts your heart rate, it impacts your blood pressure, and now the brain. The brain, obviously, during the perimenopause and menopause, brain fog, memory loss, this is all experienced. But when you have that high cortisol level, your brain doesn't function properly. Basically, you get more anxiety, your mood shifts as well. You get more low mood, you get irritable, and again that brain fog kicks in, and so does memory loss. Um, so that's what chronic stress can do. Testosterone is a male hormone, but obviously it's very important in women as well. At the moment, it's actually used in women. Studies have only shown that it's used in women for low libido. But women who go on testosterone also report better memory, cognitive side of symptoms. They start improving, your brain's fog starts improving, and also energy levels as well. It's not actually prescribed for that, it's actually just prescribed for low libido. Um, but what happens is that once the levels do start dropping in women, it becomes easier to lose muscle and harder to maintain the tone. Does that mean we all go rushing off and asking our doctors for testosterone? No, there are different assessments that need to be done and blood tests before you do actually go on testosterone.
great. That's helpful to know and really important for people to understand as well. So let's think about how we're going to put this all together for that sustainable long-term weight loss, Rupert.
Yep, I love this picture. It's the perfect jigsaw puzzle. And these four pieces are really vital to ensure that we are well during our perimenopause and menopause. And just take a look at that, even take a snapshot if you can, because I think it's really important to know that one piece is missing, the entire picture doesn't quite come together. Um, and the important thing to know is that it is absolutely possible to lose weight during the menopause. Um, and slow and steady wins the race. We're not in a rush. It will take time. Everyone's bodies are different. Every woman is different. If you compare notes with a friend or a relative, you often think, "Oh, why am I not reaching that? Why am I not feeling that?" That's not really the key, because everyone is different. Everyone's made differently, and everyone does things differently as well. So the aim should be to lose about half a kilo per week, or even slower, Just go at your pace and know that the results will come if you remain consistent and determined to do so. We are going to talk about how we can incorporate what kind of physical activity and exercises we can incorporate. But I think we've touched on how important sleep is and how important it is to combat stress.
Very much so. So let's move on and think about what to eat at this very specific time. So I think there was a health survey undertaken looking at the most effective method for weight loss to look at what can be the most helpful approach long term. But it is exactly what you said. It's that whole consistency, Rupa. It's really important.
Mm.
And protein. We talk so much about protein in our whole Live Well live webinar series, but actually at this stage of life, protein is really, really important. It cannot be underplayed. And one study looked at even going above, we sort of generally recommend that 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, and that's your current body weight. But actually, some of the research looking at specifically menopause weight loss are recommending that actually, in terms of maintaining that physical function, maintaining that muscle strength, and we may need to go a little bit above that. And if you're really struggling with satiety and feeling that sense of fullness, and you're reaching that protein, you're nailing your protein every day, and you've done that for a few weeks, and you're still feeling really hungry, then it is definitely worth nudging up your protein a little bit further. Also, interestingly, we don't want to just be focusing on meat-based or animal-based proteins. We do want to be, whether we're a vegetarian, vegan, or a meat eater, it doesn't really matter. We do need to be bringing in some of that plant-based protein as a significant part of our meals. And some of the research around menopause and protein is suggesting that actually that plant-based protein at this stage of life has additional health benefits. So think about bringing in legumes such as lentils and pulses, or tofu or tempeh. Also, we talk a lot about edamame. I think we've all become slight
Mm.
fans of them, which is why we talk about them, and nuts and seeds. And if you follow a low fat or low carbohydrate diet, then you might experience that you boost your other macronutrients. That's fine, which you may prefer to avoid. So, following a Mediterranean diet in menopause can really help. There's a lot of really helpful research around Mediterranean style of eating and heart health. And there's a lot more research now identifying that women become more at risk of cardiovascular health problems as they transition through that menopausal phase. I guess we're all living so much longer now that we're getting this research and we're getting that sort of absolute understanding of the health associated risks of all of these changes in our hormones. So yeah, I'd say go with the sort of lower carbohydrates, go with the slightly higher protein or moderate to high, depending on where you are. If you're somebody who isn't eating enough protein and you need to start bringing more protein in, just bring it up gradually. You find that really difficult to manage initially. So really think about that. Interesting research around a low carbohydrate diet was found to be the sort of research found that actually this was an approach that really could help to reduce that visceral fat. So we want to be thinking in terms of those carbohydrates, we're thinking those starchy carbohydrates like bread, pasta, even the oats and the rice, which are healthy carbohydrates, maybe be thinking about reducing how many of those we see on our plates to really help with that reduction of visceral fat. So there's a lot to be thinking about. And I think with everything, when we're making dietary changes, we just need to start with where we are and build them in gradually. When it comes to specific sort of menopause related foods, we know that fats have got a really strong benefit. So, especially when we're thinking about that Mediterranean style of eating, we want to be bringing in healthy fats as an important part of our meal. But it needs to just be a small amount. Unless you're eating an oily fish, that can be the protein and the healthy fat. Fantastic. If you're not eating those oily fish regularly, then try and have a couple of portions a week. We really know that they can be really helpful for brain health as well. Um, we know we've talked about protein, so really make sure you're including a source of protein with every meal. And then in terms of those healthy fats, again, you want to be thinking about including a portion, a small sort of thumb-sized portion of healthy fats with every meal. So we're thinking things like olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocado. Avocado, obviously, we would want more than a thumb-sized portion of, so maybe half an avocado to even a whole avocado. And we know that fats can really help in terms of satiety and also skin, helping to overcome some of the skin dryness that we may be, or the mucosal dryness that we can experience. And then think about that fiber, making sure that you've got those vegetables built in as well as really just a standard routine on your plate. Reaper.
Yeah, thank you. Ruth, you've mentioned phytoestrogens already, but I'll just touch on them. And something that we can incorporate in our diets, which is quite handy because what phytoestrogens are chemicals found in plant foods that actually have the similar chemical structure as estrogen in our bodies. So what they tend to do if we have them in our diet, in our food, they tend to bind to our receptors, our estrogen receptors, and can have a role in balancing those hormones out. But that doesn't mean that we start replacing hormones with phytoestrogens, but we can add a little bit every few days or so, however you find easy to incorporate those in our diet. I've listed the examples. You've already mentioned tempeh and tofu, but other ones that can be incorporated are flax seeds and sesame seeds and other vegetables listed there.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. I'm aware we've got a lot of questions. We will be coming to those shortly. We've just got a couple more slides to share with you. So
Yeah.
let's whiz through those, Reaper, and then move on to the questions.
Yeah, no problem. So every time I come on this webinar, Ruth, you know that I always say she's laughing. And I hope we haven't got some women who are attending this webinar probably know that I'm not a fan of physical activity. I'm really poor at it. I remember when I was a kid, I used to get my mom to write me a note for PE that I can't do it because I just didn't have that enthusiasm for movement. But unfortunately, this is not an option when you get older, and physical activity becomes non-negotiable. It has to be incorporated into your life for the rest of your life. When we're younger, we can get away with it, but unfortunately, as we get into our 40s, we can't. So I'm going to just talk about some of the movements that you can use and what's easy for you to do and the ways that you can do it as well, because motivation can be lacking as well when you're not feeling right with the symptoms of the perimenopause and menopause, particularly if you've got joint aches and pains and fatigue and just the lack of will to try anything. Very, very obvious reasons for exercising is obviously to improve your heart health. It encourages better sleep and also for your mental well-being. But like I said, some of those symptoms of the menopause, of the change, can hinder you from it. So it's important to move how you feel motivated to do so. You can get friends or neighbors to go out for walks if you wanted to. During your break times at work, like Ruth has mentioned, she's going to go out for a walk later on when it's her lunch break. I always encourage women and men generally, just for general health, to use your lunchtime in a valuable way. Please do not work during your lunchtime and think that you're going to catch up with work. Just dedicate that lunchtime to going for a walk, listening to some music, just getting some sort of like calmness and some sort of activity for you. Dedicate that work time, lunchtime for you, which I think is vital. You don't always have to join the gym. There's lots of walking groups that you can join as well, and you get to engage with people and meet different people that way. I've actually joined a fitness club that just focuses on it's like a personal training session where you have about 4 or 6 people in a group, and I love it. I've met so many nice people and I'm actually exercising, which is great. And I find that very motivating and something to look forward to in the week as well, which you need. So some of the exercise you can start looking at is aerobic or cardio exercising, and this is what gets your heart pumping. So simple walking, swimming, cycling, even dancing. Those are quite easy to do. And something that you can start looking at to improve your cardiovascular health and starting to move your body a bit more. And it's normally advised that you do cardio for about 150 minutes a week or 75 minutes a week, whatever that looks like for you, you can divide that time in the week. But those are the current guidelines for the time aspect of it. Then, of course, resistance training or strength training is what I do at my sessions, and that's using weights and resistant bands by doing squats and bicep curls or ankle taps And again, that is preserving your muscle mass, so that's really important, and your bone density as well. And it also increases your metabolic rate, which we want. Finally, I think a lot of women do look at yoga and Pilates, for example, and that's restorative exercising and it's nourishing those muscles, especially if you're doing strength training with weights, which also is beneficial for calming the mind and the body and helping you sleep a lot better as well as mental wellness. Now, it is said that studies have been done to show that exercises like the ones I've mentioned do help with symptoms of the menopause, not only with bone density and muscle mass improvement, but actual hot flushes, night sweats, improved sleep, and mental wellness.
So there you go. Thank you. We've heard it from Rupert, so it must be true.
Yeah, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Exactly. I know this to be fact.
Yes.
Yeah. So intermittent fasting, I was just going to quickly come on to, but we do have a whole webinar on um, the how to eat, I think, which is coming up over the next couple of weeks. So it might be worth coming along to that. But there is some really interesting research that intermittent fasting may be an approach to consider using. This would be only just maybe popping in an overnight fast of 12 to 14 hours. The recommendation is to start sort of by closing your kitchen really for 12 hours overnight. So if you finish eating at 7, to restart eating not before 7 the next morning. I know we generally have become a nation of evening TV watchers, and many people I speak to become evening grazers as well. So I think we want to move away from that to really help with that appetite regulation, blood sugar balance, insulin sensitivity, and also really supports our digestive health to work, our liver to function really efficiently, which processes all of our hormones. So it has huge beneficial potential impact to be considering alongside any weight loss mechanism that you're using. And it's something that's really easy to bring in and do. So have a look and see if that's relevant to you. Um, I'm going to just quickly tell you now before we move on, we've got one final poll that we're going to share with you. Thank you so much, Julia or Chantal, for sharing that. Again, no right or wrong answers, completely anonymous. Really helpful to know what you're thinking you're going to do. We're also going to ask you in a minute when this poll's finished, which stage of weight loss you are in, or whether you're not even in a stage at all. But just to let you know what we have coming up, we are going to be doing that How to Eat for Weight Loss webinar next week. So please share the link for signing up in the chat box. Chantal, if you don't mind, or Julia, we are going to be talking all about getting the best from GLP-1s on Monday the 11th. Next week we're here on Tuesday. Just to remind everyone, we don't run on a Monday. We just find people want to be enjoying their bank holidays, and who can blame them if they're not working. And so we'll be swapping over to Tuesday next week, and then we're back the following few weeks. Again, we'll change at the end of May to let you know when the bank holidays are. We'll let you know when the webinars are going to be.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. Let's see. Lots of people are going to be adding protein to their meals.
Mm.
Lots of people, thank you, Repo, you've inspired people. They're going to
I
be
hope I have. Yeah,
their
I
bodies.
better have actually. I think I've inspired myself even more as well.
Yeah, good.
Now that I'm looking at all the women that want to move more.
And that's simple and consistent. Really pleased to hear that.
Yeah.
We are going to start taking your questions. We are going to see how helpful this wonderful. I've seen some of your comments. Thank you from the chat box. We'll come over to the chat box where we will start by looking in the Q&A.
I just want to, sorry, Ruth, I just want to point out, I just put the link to the questionnaire, the menopause
Brilliant.
questionnaire in the chat box as well for women to take away.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Julia or Chantal, if you can share the final poll, that would be also really useful, and we'll start taking your questions. So Rupert, you can have a look at the question
Yeah.
and you can actually click on a little arrow to, there's either a most recent, or you can switch that over
Hmm.
to most upvotes. I don't know if you're able to do that, but it's really helpful because we can see the questions that people want to have answered most. So how about I ask the questions and
Yeah.
we,
Okay.
okay, let's go there. So one of the popped up questions today is, can HRT help with stubbornness of weight loss during the perimenopause? See, great question. Thank you for updating. That's really helpful for us. We may not have time for all your questions, but we'll take the most popular ones as much as we can, I think.
I
I'll
think
hand that to
HRT,
you.
Sorry, say that
Super.
again. Sorry, Ruth.
I'm handing this one over to you.
Yeah, no, HRT once it's an incorporation of everything that we've spoken about. So the HRT, once it does start balancing your estrogen and progesterone levels out, and you're taking those steps like we've mentioned before, it's just not estrogen on its own. You've got to be incorporating everything in it, I would say. But yeah, once you start feeling better and your levels or your estrogen levels, you can feel that they are working according to the treatment that you're on, then you should be able to feel a difference. Many women have reported that they have lost weight or are in a better um, body composition than they were before.
That's really helpful to know. Thank you. So let's move over. Somebody is saying that their weight loss has stalled at 4 stone, which is amazing. And it is beginning to creep back up, which is obviously really horrible. Other than trying to go back to basics, which you're doing, well done. What more can I do? I would say go back to basics. You have a food, mood, symptom diary. So, Julia Chatan, if you could share the link for that, I would almost say what I know is we often tracking what we're eating, even just by writing it down, can be really helpful. Maybe try and mix your foods up a little bit, try and bring in some new flavors to get rid of boredom. Also, may be worth just doing a basal metabolic rate check-in and make sure that you're not, we don't talk about calories a huge amount because we know that actually learning to eat the foods that you can eat long term without calorie counting is really helpful. But I think at this stage, are you doing some movement? Are you managing to get your muscles working for you? One of the things that can be really interesting for everyone to do who are on a weight loss journey or just for health is actually after exercise, just doing maybe some push-ups with some weights or some squats. Now, after a meal, if you put that in after a meal, it can really help to increase your insulin sensitivity. So, one of the things we really want to work on is boosting your insulin sensitivity because we know that can really help with weight management and weight loss. So, I would say if you're really struggling, plateaus happen for everyone. We all hit those weight loss plateaus. We just have to be consistent and look at other things that bring us happiness, not just the number on the scales. We know that weight can creep up again when we've lost weight, and we know that that can happen even while we're losing weight. We know that as if you've lost 4 stone, you are less likely to need the amount of food that you were eating before. So it's really worth just checking in and making sure that you're not eating too much compared to your body size 4 stone ago. That sounds really difficult, but I'm sure that makes some sense. Bring in those sort of moving around the stories in terms of the movement, bringing in that muscle strength because we know you're likely to be losing muscle strength during menopause. We also know if you lose weight quickly, when you lose weight quickly, you'll lose fat and muscle mass. And so we want you to lose weight slowly because you're more likely to just lose fat mass. So these are really complex things to get our heads wrapped around, but actually slow down the weight loss. Look at a plateau as a positive thing that your body is just like holding its course. It's regenerating, it's re-understanding what a normal body weight is for you rather than feeling undermined by it. Feel really happy that that's happening. Your body will begin to lose weight again. And the final thing is hydration. If you're eating right, follow the core meal plan. So share the link with that, please, Julia. Follow if you're on a GLP-1 medication, which many people will be, and potentially, then please share the GLP-1 meal plan. Maybe share the Mediterranean meal plan if we haven't already. Sorry to be bombarding you. But the other thing to think about is hydration and making sure that you are really hydrated well, because that can really help with fat loss as well. Sorry to bombard you with all of these resources, but they are all really helpful and hopefully will get you out of your stuck space. Anything you'd want to add to that, Rupa?
No, you've summed it up perfectly.
Thank you. Somebody's saying, I've heard that testosterone as a component of HRT can help with weight loss. Can you explain? Rupa, I'm handing this straight to you as my expert.
Not on its own, no. You're not going to be using testosterone on its own just for weight loss. Likewise with HRT, just for weight loss. Like I said before, testosterone prescribing and initiation is based on lots of different things, more than the estrogen and progesterone. So I would say no, not directly for weight loss. You have to have an assessment for it all.
Thank you, Reaper. That's really helpful. Um, Next question. How do the symptoms of perimenopause, such as increased hunger, work whilst taking weight loss medication? Does it make the weight loss medication less effective? Reaper, any
You
thoughts?
don't know. You know more about the
I
treatments
would,
and
yeah,
weight
I would
loss treatments.
say we haven't got enough large scale
Yeah,
evidence. I think they're very, very new medications, really and truly,
they are.
that are being used for weight loss. I don't think we have that level of
No.
understanding. It's certainly something as a team we would be very interested to look at. So we will look at those things over the course of the next few months or years. I would say it is more about what foods you're eating. Follow those, really step away if you are from high carbohydrate meals, step away from ultra processed foods as much as you possibly can. Really try and bring the balance around the vegetables, the proteins, and the fats. Make those your norm for all three of your meals because those foods bring satiety and also help you to produce your own GLP-1 as well from your gut. So those are really important foods to really bring that focus into. Make the other foods part of your life. Don't get rid of them altogether because when we get rid of things altogether, we start craving them. So make them there, but maybe in lesser amounts or as occasional treats, depending on which foods we're talking about. I hope that helps. I haven't seen any suggestion from looking at all of the people we talk to on the patient messaging system that people are struggling with weight loss in relation to the medications and menopause. I think you would be a rare person. So it's just about looking at each of those pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, seeing
Mm,
how your sleep is, seeing how your stress,
yep,
all of those things. Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, okay.
There's lots of questions here, Ruth, about just generally perimenopause and having a hysterectomy and postmenopause. I think if you go onto our website, there is information on those aspects, and it's really important to talk to your doctor or any clinician that you're consulting for your symptoms, and just have things clarified for you.
Yeah.
That's really important to know what you're doing and what you're experiencing. And it is possible to once you are postmenopausal as well, you can have symptoms. You can definitely have symptoms after in that stage. And likewise, with someone said they've had a hysterectomy. What changes should I be aware of? With that questionnaire link that I've posted in the chat group, just have a look to see if you've got those symptoms. And it's really important to actually know that HRT is now actually used for prevention of osteoporosis as well. So
Yeah.
long-term health, this is a different topic altogether. We can't go into it. Otherwise, we'll
You
be
go
here all
there.
day. But yeah, it is long-term health we're looking at as well as just
Yeah.
not just looking at your present symptoms. So yeah,
If somebody's saying in the chat box just flashed up, if they can't come next week, just sign up for the webinar and you'll get a link to the replay afterwards if you can't come on the day. So please do that. Um, Question, is it normal for you to feel cold whilst taking Manjaro? Um,
is
I
it?
don't think that's
I've never heard of
common
that now.
symptom, but there are all sorts of common side effects. Again, look on the Boots Online
Yeah,
to common side effects link and have a look and see if
yeah,
it comes into it. If you're really struggling with your body temperature, are you moving enough? Are you generating heat by moving? Are you sitting a lot? Then maybe that nothing's changing, but see how you're going on.
yeah.
Um, do we have any maintaining specific advice? I think the advice is follow all of the advice that we're giving you for weight management. Then start, you can start obviously just being a little bit more lenient in terms of what you eat, in terms of treats and those things that we would recommend cutting down. If you're taking a weight loss medication, the recommendation is to titrate that medication down slowly so that your body can adjust and reacclimatize to your new set point. This seems to be the general understanding of that. So, obviously, as time goes by and we get more evidence around the numbers of people taking the medications and how it's working and the effects,
Mm.
then we can feed that through to you. It's still quite relatively new medication, so it's difficult to know. Um, Question, has there been any research on weight loss injections helping those experiencing menopause? Any thoughts on that, do you think? So actually the weight loss medications helping people with their menopause symptoms.
Yeah, there has been. I don't know the exact numbers, but there is, isn't there, Ruth? I know we've discussed this at work, but yeah, it does help women with weight loss during the perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's not for everyone, and we're certainly
No.
here advocating that
Yeah, that's really important
weight loss
to state. It
medication.
isn't it isn't for
Um,
everybody,
I
but
think it is a very specific thing, and not everybody will want to go for that.
yeah.
And we've also just shared a feedback link, and we're very keen to gather your feedback from the webinars. So please do take a moment to download that link and fill in some feedback for us. We don't mind whether it's good, bad, we'd rather good, but if you've got negative things to say, we need to hear them to improve. So please do let us know. I think one thing I was going to think about in terms of that, the GLP-1s, weight loss medications, is
Mm.
there's really emerging research about the impact on inflammation and
Oh yeah,
positive things. So that may be how they're being helpful with menopause. Difficult to know.
brilliant.
Um, Somebody, a long comment here, so thank you. So I'm going to read it out because I haven't had time to digest it yet. So stopped losing weight on Manjaro. I'm postmenopausal, age 59. I've been on Manjaro for 1 year, 8 months. I've lost over 4 stone. However, I've totally plateaued since September. I can't take HT. I've got ADHD and been taking meds since January. I realise it's quite specific, but wonders if you have any thoughts, idea. Please email in if your Boots Online doctor patient. Please email in. We can email you and give you some specific advice. I would say plateaus are really common. We maybe ought to do a webinar named
Yeah,
days. I don't think we do. It will be very similar advice to what we're giving you, but I think we forget how overwhelmingly overwhelming being in a plateau for several months is. And I know from being on the webinars now for quite a long time that we have people who come to the webinars who have managed to work their way through where the plateau phases and that that can have been weeks and months in some examples. So I think, any change that's going on in your body, a new medication can make a difference to how your body is working for you. It's really worth just going through all of the different pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. So
yeah,
do message in. I know it can be really disappointing when you're in a plateau and it's not shifting,
yep,
but we know. Question about hair loss while losing weight. That's really common.
yep,
Many people will notice that they will lose hair while they're losing weight. It is often because they are not nourished as well as they were pre-weight loss. And that can be specifically true for those people who are really crashing down their calories and eating a lot less. So obviously we need those micronutrients that come from the foods that we eat. We need to be having enough fuel in our systems to be able to create healthy hair. So all of those things are really important. We have a minimum number of calories that we need just to breathe each day, which is a proportion of our basal metabolic rate. So it's really important not to go too low because actually we'll go into survival mode. We'll find it really difficult to lose weight. And it would be just really challenging, wouldn't it? The whole thing becomes challenging. Your hair is not
yeah,
going to be your priority. Your heart's going to be your priority. Your brain's going to be your priority. Walking up and down the stairs is going to become the priority. Hair is way down the list.
yep.
Yeah. So there's some really interesting research about hair loss, but it is about speed of weight loss, what we're eating, the nutrient status that we have. Um, how can I know if I am perimenopausal? That's the basic. And how does that affect our weight loss journey? Reaper.
Um, use my questionnaire that I've put in the link. Well, not my questionnaire, it's the one that we've used at Boots Online Doctor. Um, that describes, like I said, it's a good, useful tool to take to your doctor, whoever you're consulting, and describing how you feel, exactly how you feel, how long that's been going on for, and then take it from there. If you're at the age and you have the typical symptoms, you're most likely perimenopausal. And remember that if you are, it doesn't matter whether you're having your cycle or not. It's the
Yeah, and I
symptoms.
mean, you can be in perimenopause from,
Yeah.
early 40s actually for some women,
Yep.
also your family history when were other female members of your family entering into that phase. Have a look
Yep.
at these things too. The consistency can be difficult when you're feeling that whole overwhelm
Yeah.
being perimenopause. It's a really good point. The fatigue, maybe some migraines, beyond the usual tips for improving sleep, what else can I do to manage this? Are you talking about managing? What are we talking about here? I can see if three people have voted, but what is it you want specific advice on here? Because beyond all the usual tips for improving sleep, what else can I do to manage this? It's difficult to achieve due to premenstrual fatigue migraines. So you're talking fatigue. If you're talking fatigue, I would say we generally recommend having three balanced meals a day. If you're really, really struggling with fatigue and energy, then maybe it's worth adding in one very mindful snack and say something like an apple with some nut butters, maybe a date with some nut butter in, maybe some hummus, maybe an oat cake with some peanut butter on. You can see there's a trend coming out here with nuts. There are other things. You could have hummus. You want to be combining a little bit of protein with a small amount of carbohydrate and just making sure you're, really balancing your snacks as well. You could have a hard-boiled egg if you eat eggs. They are brilliant snacks you can carry around with you. So all of those things can help. Are you adequately hydrated? There are loads of books now available on the market for migraines. I know someone recently who's tried everything, and actually, when she went to a physical functioning practitioner, actually where she'd been lifting weights in the gym, she
Mm,
actually really disturbed her neck. And so
yeah,
she tried for months to sort out her migraines, but actually it was nothing she was eating or anything. It was all to do with her posture.
yeah.
So posture is also something we forget that's really helpful to think about. Anything you could add there, um, Bupa?
It's a good point. No, I totally agree with the workout and using weights. You have to be careful there because it can put a strain on your neck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So whoever you're working out with, or if you're working out on your own, just be careful with the weights that you're using. Gradual increase rather than just going for it straight with heavy stuff.
So somebody's saying they're really stuck with this plateau. They've really cut down their calories to 1200 a day, swimming every day. Don't forget, we also need rest days. Okay, our bodies
Yeah,
need time to catch up and rest. So I'd almost pedal back a little bit, maybe swim 3 or 4 times a week, take 2 or 3 rest days, maybe on those rest days, have a gentle walk and maybe do some squats when you have put the kettle on. So every time you put the kettle on or every time you go to the loo, do a few squats or some arm raises. Bring in that sort of intentional resistance that you can just do at home. You don't have
yeah.
to be in a gym to do that. And with the swimming, the other thing you could consider is also thinking about something like aquasize, because that will be doing that resistance in the pool, which can be really helpful, which is very different to swimming and uses all of the muscle groups differently. So, if you're a water baby and you like doing things in the
Mhm.
water, that can be really helpful.
Yeah,
I hope that helps. I'm sure it's really complex. If you're really, really stuck and you're a Boots Online doctor patient, email him, please. We would love to support you.
yeah.
Um, Somebody
Anything else?
saying they've been on a weight loss medication and only lost 1.5 kilos in the first month so far. So I'm thinking that's about £3. Is that right?
Yep,
So I would say that actually might feel not what you wanted to see, but we would say that's really great.
yep.
Nice, slow, nice, steady weight loss.
Hmm.
Follow all of our tips, follow that core meal plan, follow the core GLP-1 meal plan alongside taking the Wegovy. Make sure you're drinking plenty and look at your sleep and your stress. But
Yep,
actually, we want you to lose weight slowly, and especially in perimenopause, menopause, we don't want this to be a fast game. We want you to be in the slow lane
yep.
because we want your muscle mass to keep working for you.
Hmm. Anything else we can answer?
Okay, so somebody saying would recommend checking with a specialist if significantly increasing protein and decreasing carbs could have detrimental effects on kidneys. You need to be very cautious, of course, with protein, but actually, it is about you. It is about what you're currently eating, and it is about thinking, okay, what aren't I eating and what can I substitute
Mm.
instead? We're not talking about high protein, we're talking about a standard amount of protein. And as I said earlier, if you are increasing your protein, do that gradually to make sure that you acclimatize and your body gets used to it. But it's a really good point. We don't want to be encouraging a super high protein amount.
Yep.
Sometimes kidneys will really struggle with that. Yeah.
Good.
Does collagen contribute to the recommended quantity of protein? I was talking about this with
That's an interesting question.
our colleagues earlier
Oh
this.
yeah.
And we were saying really collagen can be the icing on the cake, but really getting the protein food sources first and foremost, making sure you're eating those vegetables for the vitamin
Hmm.
C, which helps you to produce that collagen. Things like bone broths are fantastic.
Okay.
So yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay, I think we got time for one last question. So is there anything you want to pick out?
Having a look to see someone saying that they don't have to get up and go as they used to before and to stick to meal planning. Um, is there anything that they can do, we can do to help, or they can do to help? And the doctor wants them to have a beta blocker. That's something I think that probably needs a bit more in-depth discussion about what's going on and how to help you with that, with the symptoms and your motivation and what's going on there. But it is doable. So do have an open conversation with your GP or any healthcare professional that you're dealing with.
Very much so. Collagen, somebody said, what did I say? I said it's the icing on the cake, but you can get collagen from protein sources of food. Getting that variety in bone broth is really helpful. Making
Yep.
sure you've got your vitamin C in your foods from your fruits and vegetables as well. Again, helps with the absorption of those proteins too, and the
Yep.
collagen aspect. So, yeah, that is everything we have time for today. Thank you so much to
Wonderful.
everyone. Rupa, come back.
I don't know. I'll have to. No,
Definitely.
I mean, I didn't mean to say that. Of course, I'll be back.
Yeah, we want you back.
Of course, I'm going to be back, and I'll be
Thank
back with,
you to
yeah,
everybody so much for sticking with us. Have a good rest of your week. We'll be here on Tuesday
likewise.
next week. So look forward to seeing those of you that can make it. And thank you so much to Julia and Chantal for all of your support and help as well. Bye everyone and take care.
You too. Bye bye. Bye.
Bye, Rupert.